Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome all you cool ghouls and friendly fiends to the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky. With me as always is the maestro of mail order mysteries, Eddie Guevara. Today's returning guest is the amazing horror magician known as Chuck Caputo. Gentlemen, how's everything going?
Okay, guys, great being here tonight.
Fantastic in my side, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, Chuck, thanks for coming on once again. And we were just discussing before we started recording here. You got some upcoming shows and all that starting back again.
Yeah, you know what? The shows are opening up, and things are working out pretty well. And I have a few shows coming up out toward the Evans City, Pennsylvania area. And so I'd like to pop in maybe like a little earlier. I'd like to visit the cemetery out there, which started all the zombie stuff from Night of the Living Dead. So I think that'll be kind of cool. And from my understanding, we built the chapel out there, which I guess all the years of rain and so forth, it had disintegrated pretty bad. From my understanding, they took a collection and they fixed it all up. So that would be kind of cool to look at it.
Yeah, awesome. So Eddie, what's new over on your end?
Well, a lot of things have happening in my end, but I have a quick question for Chuck before I
Sure.
Explain more. Do they have any dead people that they raised to make that chapel again? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know, but there's a tombstone out there. I'd like to see the exact tombstone where Barbara was holding on to, and so that'd be kind of cool to check that out. The exact same one. I mean, that was 50 years ago. You know, and I'm sure this thing. You know what? I'm sure the scenery has changed, but the tombstones should still be the same.
Yeah, and for anybody out there that doesn't know, is that the opening scene for Night of the Living Dead was filmed out at the cemetery out in Evans City, PA. So it's a huge place. A lot of people go out to visit the cemetery and go see the graves where Judith O'Dea was at, and the one that she hugged and everything. And from what I've heard, is that they're pretty cool with people coming out there as long as they're respectful to the land and the area, and they're not
they're not raising
crazy.
Any dead people.
Yeah, no dead people as of yet. Yeah, you never know the way things are going. We might be coming up into our own Night of the Living Dead scenario soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. There's been a lot of excitement our way. For the last couple of days, I've been building a site that's going to be just for the podcast, and it's built on the Anchor platform. So it's going to be a site that's going to work with the House of the Unusual Sign simultaneously, one with the other. I'm learning WordPress a little bit, so it's taken me like 3 or 4 days working on it. But I think it's coming along just fine. And at the same time, I'm actually going to be putting the very first product that Chuck Caputo has created. It's a phenomenal magic trick. We call it The Gathering. So anybody who's listening, they should be, staying tuned for it, because it's going to be on the YouTube channel probably by the end of this coming week. It's a great trick, Joe. You'll see Chuck performing it, and I'm sure it's going to raise the hair in a lot of people.
Yeah, I've never heard of that trick before. What's it called? The Gathering?
Yes, it's called The Gathering, and I'm not going to say much about the trick on the air right now, because I want anybody that is interested, they'll tune in, and they'll I don't want to spoil anybody,
build up the anticipation.
Right, build up the anticipation. Yeah, but I don't want to spoil what the trick is about, But yeah, Chuck performed it, and it's a really nice trick. You see, Chuck has a way of bringing up the dead and things, and this is one of them. Okay. And I guarantee you that by the time you finish and master the trick, anybody who sees the trick being performed will be able to buy the trick on the actual YouTube video. There'll be a link underneath it, and it will take you directly to the eBay store where it's being sold. The best thing is, like I said, is you will definitely. It's different. It's never been done before. It's a whole new trick developed. Chuck put it together. I got the pieces. We did a combined effort there, and I'm just working on the graphics and the packaging for it right now. So that's why I'm going to take another week before I list it because I don't want people to buy it. But it should be ready by then.
Well, I just have one request. Just make sure my handsome face is right on the front of the package so everyone could see it.
Well, that's absolutely, what a coincidence because
That'll really raise the dead.
that'll really raise the dead. You'll be in for a surprise, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
Funny.
Yeah, looking
You read my
forward to
mind,
that.
Joe. You read my mind.
So hey, Chuck, but we were talking earlier. You said you have you're doing some type of a seminar or speaking engagement to a group of magicians in Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It'll be tomorrow night in Beaver, Pennsylvania, and this is for the local SAM, which is the Society of American Magicians out there. You know what? They're a great bunch of people. I've actually performed for them about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I think it starts about 7:30, maybe around 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And so yeah, they had retained my services, and I'm going to demonstrate some antique slash collectible type of magic. I'm going to show some things that I built and so forth. So, it'll be a great night, and they meet like at a really cool type of a restaurant. It's in the back room.
Oh, nice. So it's like an informative and entertaining type of engagement.
Right.
Right, exactly. Like I'll probably do like maybe an hour, and then we'll take a break, maybe 15 minutes or so, and then I'll go on maybe another 45 minutes. I think the second part I'm going to actually bring a lot of my novelties, believe it or not. Like I had built like a case for it, and the doors open up and so forth, and there's a bunch of old time stuff that I had around for quite a few years since I was a kid. So I'm going to actually show that kind of stuff. That's mainly like a guy type of a thing. I don't think the women there would probably like it too much, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Because I don't think my wife cares for that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. I think it is more of a guy type of a thing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You know what? It depends. Depends because I've seen the females are attracted to a lot of the magic tricks and jokes and novelties as well. I've actually this kind of funny. I met years ago in the flea market where I used to, go a lot to in the Meadowlands by the Giant Stadium in New Jersey. There was a girl that used to sell there all the time. She was young. She was about my age, give or take. Wife got a little jealous after a while, so I had to kind of break the connection there. But we became good friends, and she was a heavy comic book collector, novelty. She liked novelties more than I did.
Isn't it
So
something?
I got to tell you the truth, and I told my wife, interesting, But the whole thing is that there are some girls that are really more into the novelties than we are. I've come across 3 of them in my my
Isn't it?
time. So
Isn't that something? Wow.
it is very interesting. But the other thing I want to ask you, Chuck, you're going to be doing. Make sure your wife films that. Take with you the
Okay.
tripod, whatever it is. We like to put that up because there's more important than anything you do, any type of event.
Okay.
We want to keep, especially in your thing for anybody who wants to hire you.
Hmm.
It'll be good to keep a backdrop of all the stuff you're doing and put it up in the channel.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Another thing I want to ask you: what type of event are you going to do in the cemetery? Did you talk to the folks there?
Well, you know what? This is for like private. There's a couple private places that hire me to do some shows, private parties. So it's not actually at the cemetery, but it's in the vicinity. So it's
Oh,
not very, yeah, it's not very far from there.
oh
So
no,
that'll be coming up in about a month or so
no.
early. And I
I was under the
figured,
impression you got hired by the cemetery itself.
no, 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 that would be cool. No, hey, if they're listening out there, give me, what, give me a call. Maybe we could, hook up and do something. So that would be
Yeah.
neat. But
Well, the only way you're going to talk to anybody is through a séance or something.
I tell you,
yeah,
it would be cool if I don't know who runs that cemetery, but it'd be cool to try to get a small screening for a handful of people of the Night of the Living Dead. If you could watch it on a projector out at the cemetery, that would be really cool.
that would be a really cool idea. You know what? Back when George Romero passed away, I don't remember. These years have been going by so fast. I'd say maybe 4 years ago or so. Out here, from out toward Monroeville, the Monroeville Mall is only about maybe 8 minutes from my house, and so they had a really touching type of his picture was up, and they had a section roped off, and so people would throw flowers in there, bouquets of flowers. DVDs of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, and so that was up for maybe about a month, and that was kind of cool. It was at the one end of the Monroeville Mall.
Yeah, I've been to that mall. There used to be a comic convention. I don't know if it's still out there at the Monroeville. It's like an expo center or something. But I've
Right.
been out to that mall. It's pretty nice. That's where they filmed Dawn of the Dead in 1978 out there, and it was
Yeah. Yeah, it
it's
was.
a pretty cool mall.
Yeah, oh yeah. They just built a big theater in there. There's a multiplex movie theater they put in there. I guess the last maybe 4 years, and it's a fantastic theater. I forget how many theaters inside, but it's a lot. About a year, maybe 2 years ago, they came out for the 80th anniversary of the Wizard of Oz. This place played the Wizard of Oz movie, and that was cool because it was so nice to see it in its original form on the big screen. I mean, yeah, so it was just so cool because there's things you don't see on TV. Okay, whereas you would see it when it's gigantic like that, then you notice certain things.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'm wondering, do they do a showing of Dawn of the Dead at all at the theater?
You know what? That would be a good question. I don't, as far as I've seen, no. But I mean, but who knows? Sometime in the future, I mean, that may be a possibility. And now with the COVID stuff, I think they're just reopening. So they've been closed. A lot of these places, I think,
Right.
have been closed or very sluggish.
Yeah, I don't know what PA's up to, but today they just announced for Ohio that starting June 2nd, all the restrictions are going to be completely lifted. So that's good news to hear. Everything could get back
I
to as normal as it can be. So hopefully PA is going to follow suit.
I hope.
Well,
Yeah.
in New York and New Jersey, I think it's like the middle of June. Everything's opening 100%. Let me tell one thing I want to say to you guys. When we're talking about cemeteries and stuff, and all the cool stuff that can happen, if you could perform there. Two things came into mind. One is Dr. Saab from the group. He heard the last episode when we were telling the stories, and he goes, "Man, I have so many good stories about cemeteries that it would be great, but I don't want to say what they are because he told me there's one of them that's really phenomenal there that I think we can add in a future show." The other thing is, I was asking my mom. I said to her, "Hey, is there any possibility that somebody might have a photo of the cemetery I talk about in Cuba all the time?" And she told me that my mom's sister-in-law, her parents are buried there, I think. So she went to Cuba a few years ago and she took photographs of the cemetery. So I'm going to reach out to her and try to see, because this is the spookiest, creepiest prize cemetery one can have.
Wow.
And I'm going to try to see if I can get a photograph of like the archway before you go into it and stuff. But it's something I would post on the channel, and probably under the blog or the forum. And and like I said, one of the good things is also this we need to try to see if we can somehow develop a way to get a lot more people to attend the forum, because we are having quite a few good conversations there. And I want to see if we can get a bigger group out there. So that's something that's going to be in my scope. So how we can bring more people, to start
Absolutely. I mean,
conversations.
it's a free forum. So if anybody out there hasn't been to it at houseoftheunusual.com, it's free to sign up. And there's a forum and a blog there, and there's a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of good pictures. And we always encourage anybody to contribute their stories of movies, novelties, whatever, pictures, anything's good there that runs along our wheelhouse, and share it. And there's we're all of the same mind there, I guess.
Right. And anybody who remembers the show Have Gone Will Travel.
Yeah.
Remember, we also have Chuck. He has a magic trunk and he will travel. And he's got a new site up that Chuck just sent me a link to. I'm going to link it to our channel as well. And anybody who needs shows out there and parties around the Pennsylvania area, you always got the number one horror magician online here that
Hey, you know what, Chuck? I meant to ask you, and I can't remember if we discussed this before, but when we were talking to Michael Mesmer last time, he had said that he does a lot of like prom, shows and all that, like after prom and
Right.
everything.
Right.
Do you get to do anything like that with your horror magic?
I tell you what, the only thing I do for after proms anymore is close-up magic, which is going from table to table. I
Okay.
stopped, yeah, I stopped doing the actual large shows for proms about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, those kids at that age are pretty rough. You know what? And I can handle an audience, but they had me starting at like 4 in the morning for a show. I mean, it
Ooh.
was like to the point where I was thinking, man, do I really need this that bad? And you know what? To be perfectly honest with you, magicians for stage shows do not go over well with kids that age. The close-up magic going from table to table, that goes over very well. And you just put your stuff back in your little case and you walk out after an hour or two and you're done. But the actual stage shows for those kids at that age, it does not go over very well. You know what? If I'm being perfectly honest with you, a hypnotist goes over much better for a stage show.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
I was
that.
about to say that.
Yeah, they're a little bit more, involved with the audience and all that, rather than
Exactly.
Yeah, they
the kids
hypnotize
sitting
the
there.
audience. The other one doesn't.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah,
kids
so
today,
I
they
just
don't have the.
basically
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, so I basically stopped doing them about 20 years ago because you know what? I don't need that aggravation, to be honest with you,
Right.
and yes, so I just quit. I just quit doing it, but I'll do close-up magic, which is, what, and if someone calls me for an after prom, I'll be, upfront with them and explain to them, close-up magic goes very well, and it does. I mean, so yeah, there are some times that I do close-up magic, for the after prom groups. You know what I mean? And you know what? And I'm not saying anything bad about the kids because you know what? When I was 18 years old, I would have done the same thing. I'd be a little bit, like boisterous and so forth.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's that age. They, it's after prom. They want to go and go have a good time. And we always went. Being in Northeast Ohio, we always after prom we went up to Cedar Point and.
Right.
We want to stick around for everything. We wanted to hit the hotel, party a little bit and head up to Cedar Point the next day,
Exactly.
And
I tell you, Joe, me being a magician, the roughest shows, which I can say personally anyway, is the outdoor county fairs. I mean, I've done county fairs for over 35 years. I mean, sometimes they want you to do 3, 4, 5 shows a day,
oh
and
wow.
it could go on for 7 or 8 days straight. I mean, so if you do the math in that, I mean, that's like 35 shows in a week. And I tell you what, by the time you're done with that, you are so tired and exhausted. It's like, holy smokes. But yeah, it seems like the county fairs, for me anyway, they're the roughest, especially the older that I get. It's like, man, I
You,
can't really handle that anymore.
Chuck, what you're saying about that, I agree with you so much because when you go to the Meadowlands Fair, when you go the first day when it opens up, and which has been there like I guess over 40 years now, everything looks good the first day, but by the time you go the second or third week that it's there, people look like they haven't taken a shower in weeks.
Yeah.
You can see the workers are butchered. They look like Night of the Living Dead. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
And if they hire you for 5 shows a day, they want the fifth show. I mean, like there's been times when people were taking down rides behind me, and there was like 3 people in the audience, and they said, "Still do the show, go out there." And I was like, "Oh man, you got to be kidding me," And it's very hot. I mean, it was like 95 degrees, very,
Oh,
very, very humid. You know what I mean? So those are the roughest. I mean, like I do a lot of festivals during the summer, outdoor festivals and so forth. I love schools. Schools are fun. I love kids. Schools are great, but I do adult shows as well. They're fantastic as well. But
is there still a market for like children's birthday parties or anything like that?
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
absolutely,
of
yeah,
course.
absolutely, yeah. Because you know what, I mean, like I'm out of town a lot, so I'm not always here. But if I'm in town in advance and I put on the calendar, I'll definitely do a birthday. Yeah, you know what? Birthdays are very, very popular. I don't particularly care to do the real young kids, maybe 3 or 4. That could be kind of rough because you might scare them a little bit. But
The
I mean,
horror
no,
magician.
well, no, no. You know what? For
He
that
will
type of thing, I
terrify
keep
your kids.
Yeah, Chuck ripping heads off in the audience, and there's 4 year
no,
olds
no.
around screaming.
No, for kids, for kids, I keep it. You know what? I keep it very benign. But yeah, yeah. I mean, but
Plus,
the
we saw
ultimate.
this lady in half, and the little 4 year old screaming.
Oh, mama!
Hey, but we talked about Trundle Manor in one of the previous podcasts. Now that's a cool place. Now, for a place like that, I could bring all the strange stuff I have. I mean, haunted dolls and things of that nature. That's the kind of place where you could let go. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but didn't you say that that's closed for now? They closed their.
Well, they're not closed permanently. It's just because of COVID. So what you have to do is check the website and see when they're going to do tours again. But no, he's not closed permanently. You
Let,
know what? But if you guys ever go out there or something, or if you ever check the website, let me know. He's a good friend of mine. So make sure you mention my name.
Yeah,
okay,
I definitely like to head out there because it's not too far from me.
is this
So
the place though? Is this the place we were talking about that you said that that they're not doing shows, that you're not sure who's running the place, Chuck?
No, no, no.
That's not the castle next door to your house, is it?
No, 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 no. This is in Swissville, PA.
Oh,
Yeah, this is a guy that owns a like it's in his house actually. It's called Trundle Manor, and he has a lot of oddity type things in there. He has quack machines, from doctors and so forth. It's a really cool place. It's very well put together. The guy that owns it, he goes by Mr. Arm, ARM. That's an acronym for his name. His name is Anton Raphael Muriello, so he calls himself Mr. Arm, and he just got married about 4 years ago, and he invited my wife and I to the wedding. I tell you, that was a cool wedding. It was very unusual, very cool.
yeah, I'm looking at the website now, and it says it's open by appointment only starting April 13th,
Oh,
and then
good.
yeah, if anybody's interested, it's at trundlemanor.com. It's TRUNDLEMANOR.com, and you
Mhm.
could get all the information on there. They've got up some basic rules up there for for the tours and everything, and some links and a few photos and everything. It looks like a really cool place. I
It
definitely
really
like
is.
to go out
the acronym for his wife wouldn't be leg, would it? No,
No, I don't think so. But you know
okay.
what? I, Going back about, I guess, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, my wife surprised me. She said, I have a place to take you for your 40th birthday or whatever. And she said, it's in Swissville. And I said, well, I practically grew up there. When I was a kid, I used to hang out there because that was right next to where I lived. And so I'd go bowling at the bowling alley out there and everything. So I said, what on Swissville? I can't picture anything. So she took me way up in the hills up there and pulled over, and I seen this cool looking mansion almost. I said, "Uh-oh," and so that was how I got. That was how I found out about the place because my wife surprised me for one of my birthdays.
That's awesome. Yeah. That'd
Oh
be
yeah.
good. That'd be cool to get. I wonder if they'd be up to come on the podcast here sometime
What?
and talk
Yeah,
about their manor.
yeah. You know
Why
what?
don't we
Contact them.
why don't we get a trip and drive down there, Joe, me and you?
Yeah,
We'll meet Chuck now that everything's opening up. I mean, we could
Yeah,
do his
that would
party
be
as
that would
well.
be cool. That would be cool.
I
And
think that'd be nice to do a live podcast from even inside their manor. With everything around. That would be.
it would be really great. It'd also be possible. I mean, not exactly a live podcast, I guess, but a live special. We could do one of those things we do for the YouTube channel because the podcast would have to be obviously recorded.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I want to tell you is that definitely would be the way to go, and that's what we were talking about. As things are opening up, it'll be great to do some type of convention towards the end of the year. There, I spoke with David; he was all for it, and maybe Mr. Mike Messmer. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do towards the end of for October, this coming October, which by then everything should be fully open and functional.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm still looking at the website. They got a cool picture of a car. It's called the Trundle Hauler.
That's
You know what
cool.
I'm
Yep.
talking about, Chuck?
Absolutely. That is so cool.
Yeah, it looks like some type of Mad Max vehicle from like maybe the 40s.
Oh yeah, you know what? He has the coolest stuff, and he's a very inventive guy. I mean, he builds a lot of stuff, and he'll fix things up, and he
So
does a really great job.
let me get this. So what it is he has a house that he turned into some type of oddities museum.
Yes, that's correct. Uh-huh.
Isn't that kind of like what Forrest J. Ackerman used to do with the Acker Mansion in California, where he had all the collectibles from every Universal monster around.
I
In
guess,
fact,
yeah.
Yeah, he used to open his house up to the
you
public to
know
see his
the
collection.
the sad part about it is when he passed away, they basically dismantled that house and sold parts and to wherever it came. I
Wow.
mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
He had
a lot of it went up for auction. A lot of the items.
I
Yeah.
actually own something from it. I forgot what it was. A couple, but I do own something I purchased long time ago on eBay from the Acker Mansion House.
Yeah, I know there was some stuff on eBay years ago they were auctioning. I was watching. I can't remember one item I missed out on bidding. Somebody sniped me right at the very end. I think it was a magazine.
It wasn't me, Joe.
Yeah, it probably was you.
Yeah, that sniper bidding is rough. I know that happened to me quite a few times on things. Hey, there's one place I always wanted to visit. Now he passed away. This guy, was it in Michigan? Oh, I can't remember. He had a bunch of coin operated machines. He was a retired pharmacist. Was his name Marty, maybe, or something, if I remember correctly? But he had a really cool type of a big place that he bought just for that, and so kids could hold birthday parties there and stuff. But he had a bunch of old vending machines. I mean, ranging from fortune tellers to the arcade games. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or what, but I think it was in Michigan. He passed away, and from what I hear, the family took it over, and I certainly hope that that's the case because it would be a shame to close this place down.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. It's called Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum.
That's it. That's it.
I believe. I'm not sure if it's American Pick. Yeah, I think it's American Pickers. They visited that museum.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
I think so. You can look it up if you're by the computer there, Joe. But I think a while back, about 2 or 3 years ago, I think American Pickers went to that museum.
Oh, that place looks so cool. I would love to see it.
I'm not seeing anything on their website about American Pickers.
One
man, if you look at that front page photo, that's heaven in there. I mean, there are so many. There's like old fortune teller machines.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it's loaded. It really cool.
A lot of pinball. If you guys were to go up to Lake George in New York State, where I've gone up with David about 3 times or so, there's a house there called the House of Frankenstein. It's been there since, it's a museum.
Wow.
But it's been there since 1971. And I think when they opened it up or something, Sarah Karloff actually was there for the opening day or something. But what I got to tell you is, though, that museum, not only is it the whole facet of it, like the front of it, is beautiful. I could post some pictures of me in front of that place, but it's really nice. But when you go inside, it's not like a haunted house or anything. It's just, you walk around and they have it kind of reminds me of the old haunted house dark rides that you walk through where it's kind of dark and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like long hallways. But as you're walking down the hallways, each corridor has different sceneries. Like they'll have like remember that thing we talked about, the Pepper's Ghost, where
absolutely
back in the 1920s, they have a Pepper's Ghost illusion in one. They have another one where there's like a lady transforming into gorilla.
Oh, that would be cool.
They use the other one, but there is one particular one there that has, you're looking and there's like a picture and stuff. All of a sudden, a ghost appears out of nowhere in the midair, and it floats around and it flies up. And let me tell you, it's so realistic. I must have videotaped that like 10 times.
Wow.
When I was there, because I love that particular thing. But one thing I'm going to tell you that's phenomenal is like the whole area itself is really, Victorian style houses. I think the boardwalk there's got to be like maybe 10 blocks long. It's not a big place. It's a nice, quiet place to go to. That has a lot of history in it. And but that's one of the things, that I think when you're talking about museums, some places you could go to that are really nice. I guess every state has one. There's even one in Massachusetts. They call it, I don't know. Wait. I don't know if it's Massachusetts or Ohio, but there is a museum of robots. It's called the Robot Museum or something.
Ooh, that would be cool.
It is cool. This guy's got a life-size Robbie. He's got like 4,000 robots in there.
Wow.
And it's super cool. You can actually, if you go online, you can see a virtual tour of the entire place.
I'm gonna check that out. Wow.
Yeah, it's called the Robot Museum or Robot Museum. Something. You know that I contacted the owner of that to see if he had ordered the robot plans, and he sent me the ones I have.
Okay.
I said, no, I don't want those.
That would be cool. I'd love to see that. Oh my goodness.
Well, there's that robot museum in Mansfield, the Mansfield Memorial Museum. It has the Electro
Oh, the
robot,
George
No,
Westinghouse.
but that,
Westinghouse robot.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one I told you about. Don't you remember, Joe? I told you that where Electro was, that I
Yeah,
was searching for him. The guy who put it in that Mansfield Museum, which is about, what is it, 2 hours from you?
yeah, give or
That,
take. Yeah,
yeah, that robot is the original Electro that was found in the house of the guy who built it way
Wow.
back. The son had a head, and the son was under the impression that it was an extra head they built. So then he found out in the backyard of his dad's house or something, he found
Wow.
on top of a pickup truck that had been there for 50 years the body of Electro.
Isn't
Because
that
I told
something?
you, I contacted back in the 80s, I contacted the Westinghouse Museum, the archives, and I contacted Charlie Ruck, which was the guy that ran the archives up in Massachusetts. And he sent me, oh gosh, about 20 or 30 original photographs of the robot, and he sent me some type of plans and how they built the original. And I went and I was trying to get it built, and he even offered me $15,000 to try to reproduce it. But I mean, it sounded crazy. But the minimum, I think the least I got a quote was for like $75,000.
Yeah.
But then after my search, and I thought and someday hoped that I had found it, which most people thought it had been melted. Because if you read several books about the robot, they
Yeah.
tell you that it was melted back in the 1950s for the war. But when they found it, well, the guy in the Mansfield Museum got super happy, obviously, because the son of which I think his name is I actually have the guy's phone number somewhere here. Um, where I contacted the owner's son and I told him, man, I can't believe you found that, and I had been looking for it for so many years. But I respected that it was him who found it. At least he had a right over me because obviously he's the son of the guy who built
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Uh,
No,
and,
no, we live here. We live down in Wilmerding, Eddie, and this is where the Westinghouse, one of the Westinghouse museums is. That's what you
well,
were.
that's the one you told me across the street that you said
Yeah,
it's an old thing that we were talking about. That's the one I
right,
thought when you
right,
said the
right.
man.
Yeah, that's the one you got confused with. But yeah, this is a place where it's been open, oh, over like 90 years, and they just recently closed, unfortunately, and it's just sitting there more or less because they used to hire me for Christmas shows. I mean, they would set up Christmas trees and trains. It was really cool. George Westinghouse's walk-in, his vault is still there, all of his patents and so forth. So yeah, that's a cool place, but it hasn't been open in recent years. And so sometime if you'd like to maybe contact them for a possible, I told some type of a, yeah, that would be kind of cool. But I've always been fascinated with the robots. I don't know if you know it or not, Joe, but I just recently built one out of tin cans. It's my wife filmed it. Eddie sent
Oh,
me
really?
yeah, Eddie sent me a picture of a cool looking vintage tin can robot made of coffee cans and cans and different types of
oh,
small
that's
small
cool.
tomato cans. And so I was always fascinated with that picture. And I said, I'm gonna try and build one of these. But the one I built moves. He'll turn his head back and forth. He smokes a pipe. The pipe blows smoke. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, you know what? He even performs a card trick. He's only about maybe 19 inches tall, so he's a tabletop thing. And I kind of patterned it after Westinghouse's Sparko because there's a little dog there also. So if you have a chance, check it out on YouTube. We filmed it I guess, about 3 weeks ago. It took almost a month to build this thing. I mean, the wires inside is ridiculous. There's a lot of motors, a lot of servos, things of that nature. It was a very, very difficult project.
Chuck, I was actually gonna upload it probably in the morning tomorrow because I already did upload. I just gotta put the link
Oh,
and everything in to put it on so people could have seen it. Because that was your latest invention there.
yeah,
Um,
it was a pretty difficult thing.
I'm actually working on a YouTube special of Chuck's apparatuses. All the inventions of Chuck Caputo, the legendary Chuck, and his inventions.
Uh,
And I'm going to be putting it up pretty soon. I'm going to be working on it for like the next month to do some unboxing of some of the stuff that Chuck has been gracious enough to let me get. Um, but overall, when you're talking about robots, I mean, oh my God, that's something that I love. I mean, I love robots probably more than that's the second thing next to the novelty field.
Sure.
Uh, but especially one of the things Electra was so
Well,
famous
here you
for.
go, Eddie. If you had an island to go to of all robots or all mail order novelties to live the rest of your life on, where would you go?
Uh, it's a hard choice, but I gotta tell you, the only thing that will make me go to the novelty one if they had a limited amount of 7-foot ghosts there. But but I think that's a really hard choice. Joe. Now that you actually asked me that, I wouldn't know what to do.
What one island would have every robot ever made on it for you to play with, to take apart, do whatever, and the other island would have every mail order novelty made that you could do the same with, and you could have to choose one island to live the rest of your days on.
That would be a tough one, huh?
It is a tough one. I don't think I would ever be. I'm thinking right now in my mind, and I'm like, wow.
Well, no. Here's what you do: is you go to the robot island, and you take apart the robots. You put them together, so that way you could put it in the water and cruise over to the mail order island.
I like that idea. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. That's a good. One thing I'm going to tell you guys is, I'm actually. I mean, the more I think about it, the more that it might be unlikely. But I actually have in my mind, I was thinking one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to mail a letter to the guy who did the original robot plans, the guy who's the son that contacted me many years ago, and I still got the P.O. box, and I'm going to mail a letter to him this week and see if I might have gotten lucky that he came across a set of plans and totally forgot about them.
You need to hire Indiana Jones to find these plans for you.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, really.
It's I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's amazing that we're talking about a piece of paper that was sold for at least 10 years. That means they must have sold hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that somebody's going to be paying, because an ad that was about 2 inches by 3 inches was at least back even in the 70s, at least $300-400 a month. Okay. There's no way you're going to tell me that this guy is going to be running ads month after month after month for something that wasn't selling. What really baffles me is you find patterns that women used to make dresses with and stuff like that, mail order patterns. You find robot instructions for 1940s and stuff. And you're going to tell me that nobody has a set of these plans out there in their house, in their basement or somewhere? I mean, it's impossible.
It's impossible, yeah.
That's why I find this so, especially with eBay, that I have gone out there. I have offered all types of money. And I have tried to speak to, I forget how many collectors.
Have you offered up your firstborn?
Yeah. Listen, I think they still couldn't find it. It's kind of crazy, but it's like nobody. I've had people say, "Oh yeah, I ordered it." Not one single person has the darn thing, and the only one that does claim to have it, which I believe he does, is a bubblehead. You know what I'm saying? That's the funniest thing about it. But the whole thing is, I'm just dying to see what they look like.
Sure,
At least Dr. Saab made my dream come out by a percentage by building me a prototype of what the thing could have looked like, but based on the picture from the ad. But the whole thing, when we look at it, it's amazing how some things are just so elusive you can't find them.
Oh.
And I guess every collector has that. And one thing I'm going to tell you guys that talking to Dr. Saab one time that blew my mind. That Dr. Saab, Chuck, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, has every item ever made by Tenyo Magic.
Oh, really? Okay.
He only needs about 9 to complete the entire 500-something piece collection.
Wow, that's cool.
So he's got every Tenyo Magic trick ever made.
That's cool.
That is cool, and that would be phenomenal if he would do some type of video with that.
Yeah, some type of demonstration. You know what? There's a few of their effects that are really ingenious. I mean, there really are. You know what? I can think of about maybe 10 or 12 of them that are absolutely amazing. See, there was an Austrian magician that had collaborated with Tenyo for quite a few years, Luber Fiedler. And this guy, if you search him on YouTube, Luber Fiedler, he passed away maybe about 7 years ago or so. This guy was an absolute genius. I mean, some of his ideas are just unreal. If you watch him, you will absolutely be amazed. So he was involved with Tenyo for about the last maybe 20 years or so.
Last 20 years?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
the
he
last 20 years of tenure. Well, here's a magician you could bring to the cemetery. Since you say he passed away, he could be the gift. No, the that's probably why I know. See, the thing with Tenyo Magic is, even though there's two versions. There's the version that they did out of obviously China or Japan, wherever it came from.
it yeah it was
China,
Japan.
right?
Yeah, no,
Japan.
Japan.
Okay, that's written in Japanese. Now those boxes, even though they're Tenyo Magic, they're not as collectible because they do have Japanese writing all over it and stuff. And
Right, right.
but the American versions of the Tenyo Magic, they're more
Oh yeah,
like the original ones.
oh yeah.
They're very hard to come by. And let me tell you, I myself paid for the floating rock, which is the rock I'm talking about that
Oh,
floats.
that's a great trick. That's a
Yeah,
wonderful
I
trick.
paid for that. That trick, which has got to be when it came out. In fact, David told me he used to sell it in his magic shop for like about $10 each or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I,
right.
I paid $102 for one.
Yeah,
I mean, it was crazy just to get one of them. Now I have quite a few Tenyo Magics. I'm not sure how many I have. I bought it throughout the years. I bought some of the haunted house and spooky effect ones that they had because
right.
they're cool. They're really cool the way they look and everything. But I got to say to you though, the more I look at things and stuff, it just blows my mind how some of these things today are
Yeah,
worth so much money, and you wouldn't even have even thought possible. I mean, and this is the crazy thing. If we always say, hey, if I would have known. Right now, we know. Right now, there's things coming out, and we don't buy them because we don't think it's gonna be worth anything. We keep making the same mistake over and over,
you're
and
right.
then a couple of years. A good example there is I forget what it is. I think it was the Dark Knight series of Batman, where they did a couple of comic books based on it.
Hmm.
The first edition ones, which came out like in 1995 or whatever, and they're still right now reproducing. You can go and buy probably a set for about 40, 50. The first edition ones are like $500-$600 a book.
Wow,
And it just, and I mean, I have the first edition set, and I couldn't believe how much it's worth. So I said to myself, how's that even possible? But yeah,
unbelievable.
you have a lot of things that are just, people are just spending crazy amounts of money right now for collectibles.
You're
Uh,
right.
I mean, a good example, the secret book safe sold in comic books. I've sold a couple for $100 a piece.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just phenomenal the amount of people. I mean, not phenomenal. It's just amazing the stuff that we had, or we just have, even stuff we have today. Like, who would have thought?
yeah. Who would have thought that?
No, no, this book that I bought in the flea market. I guess I paid like $4 for it, or $3. I don't even know. Fast Times at Richmond High
Hmm.
would sell for 500,000 bucks. That's insane.
Wow,
And I sold mine for a little bit over $325.
that is hard to
But
believe.
it
Wow,
was hard to believe. I was like, "What?" It went right out the door, man. I
that's
wasn't gonna
crazy.
hold it, but I mean, I just recently sold it on eBay a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. I just found a game that I had packed away. I forgot all about it. I got closets packed with stuff, which I'm sure you guys do too. I found it the
Oh
other
yeah,
day. Hang on Harvey. Do you remember that Hang on Harvey, where you got the little pegs? It's almost like Kerplunk, but there's a little guy that's hanging by these two pegs, and you kind of pull them down out of the holes, and he'll cascade down to the bottom. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was made in 1970, I think.
I
Maybe
remember the game. Yeah, I remember the game. It was kind of. I think that came around the same time as Don't Break the Ice.
yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Hang on. And I still have my thing maker from when I was that surprisingly, and it's in really good shape. It has all the molds. It has the heating plates, where you heat it all up. Of course,
Yeah,
all the goop containers are there, but they're not, but there's no goop in there. It all dried up.
yeah. But the thing is that goes for over $1,000 if you see it, especially if it's in really good condition.
Wow, is
Uh,
that right? No, wow.
yeah, it definitely does crazy amounts. I mean, any game, like for example, right now, say you won the Ghost Gun. I think what was it? The company that made the Ghost Gun was it Hasbro? And this was a Ghost Gun that it was kind of funny though the way it worked. And I think I talked about this in another episode a long time back, one of my shows back of first season. We were doing the podcast. Um, the way and this Hasbro, I think it was Hasbro. In fact, Joe, look it up on your computer. I think it was Hasbro Ghost Gun. It was a gun, looked like a sniper rifle or something like that, right? Or a machine gun. And what it did is it had a flashlight inside,
Yeah,
a light bulb from a
it showed a
flashlight.
picture of a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw a picture of the ghost, and the way the ghost worked, it was slides that had like each of them had like 10 ghosts on a slide.
Oh, I know
And
what you mean. I know what you
yeah,
mean.
when you
Yeah.
pulled the trigger, this is the funny thing about it. When you pulled the trigger, the way you shot the ghost that you saw on the wall was that just like a paper punch, it would punch a hole in the slide. So you only could use the slides, once or twice, and that was it. Then
Wow.
you had to buy more slides. But that was how stupid that was. I mean, you would look at the ghost, and when you shot him, it was basically punching a hole in the actual slide, so then you couldn't use it again. Um, that thing goes for a couple of $100 right now. I mean, I do have about two of them. One of them
Mhm.
doesn't have a box. One of them is still new inside the box. When I was a kid, I remember I wanted my mom to buy it for me, and that was when I mentioned one time it was like the best Christmas I got. I got the Haunted Mansion game. I got the deluxe TV Magic set,
Uh,
which later I did an unboxing of one I purchased and found out it was not complete. But anyway, I bought that and I wanted the Ghost Gun, and my mom didn't, but it was $10.98. I still remember the actual price on it.
wow.
And and today I looked at one on eBay recently, a couple of weeks ago. It was like $279. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
It's
yeah. It's phenomenal. It really is. Who's that guy way back in the maybe the early to mid 70s? Was it Ron Popeil? I mean, man, that guy was a master of selling stuff. I mean, from the pocket fisherman to like just about everything else you can imagine. Remember, he used to have all the commercials would come out.
yeah, yeah. And one of the guys also Maxwell Smart. Remember the guy who played Maxwell Smart? What was his name?
Oh yeah,
Don
Don Adams. Adams.
Don Adams. He used to go to Skittle shootout, Skittle
Oh,
bowling.
Pool. I remember that
You,
Skittle Pool.
you
Yep.
know, there was one. Let me see if you remember this, Chuck. Because I don't think I talked to this. Oh, I talked about this with you. But there used to be one that Don Knotts would walk into the stage, and it was shaped. The game itself, I thought it was Skittle Shootout, but then I think I was wrong because Skittle Shootout was actually another game. But what it was kind of like a triangular red game, okay? And it had in each side had a ball with a pendulum, and then there was a target, a black and white
Uh,
target that would move across the center of the game.
I think I
and,
do
and
remember that a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
you would hit the ball, and the ball would push, and if the target would go, let's say you turn the target to the other side, you get the point, and then the other guy would hit it. So the way it worked, you had a pendulum, and
Hmm.
there was like a plastic thing with a ball in front, and anyway, that game, I saw it. I had it as a kid. I lost it in the fire. I forgot the actual name for it. I only saw a picture of it years ago, which I actually printed out. I've been looking for it. Hopefully, I can find it to prove the existence of the game. Everybody remembers the game that I talked to, but I've never seen one online at all, not even a picture of one
Wow.
online. It's also been one of those elusive things that I have tried to get again. Um, my wife's, I think a few years ago, sold one in a flea market in a church, and she didn't buy it for me. I wanted to kill her. I said, "Are you kidding me?" But the whole thing is that game with the moving target, I think I don't know the right name for it. and I was thinking it was
Mm-hmm.
Skittle Shootout.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been something moving target, whatever. But I know Don Knotts used to come on and play it
Mm-hmm.
on the TV commercial. So when you look up Don Knotts at Skittle Bowling, Skittle, they bring everything, like 40 different games that he put out, and that's the only one that doesn't show up. And the
Oh.
only thing I remember, it used to have a target, just like the store Target, that
Mm-hmm.
had a little round thing in the center, the outside target, and it would move across the thing electronically. And you hit the ball, and it would knock it over to the other side or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. That's another thing that it's in back of my mind in my search,
You can't
that
seem to
I would
find
be
it.
happy just even if I found a photograph of it, which I
Wow.
did, which I did find a photograph of it a while back. I remember printing it out. I just don't remember what the heck that photograph is.
Isn't that something? I think when we were kids, we all had Mousetrap. I remember, man, when I was a
Oh
little
yeah,
kid.
Mousetrap is, yeah. That's
That's
one of
a
those.
Yeah, that's a staple of childhood there,
Yeah, they still
Mousetrap.
make that today. Yeah.
They still make it today. And back when I was a kid, way back in the early 70s, my parents up. Remember that? And it took me years to figure out that's ping pong spelled backwards. You know why? I never figured it out till way later. Isn't that something?
You know what's
Unreal.
really crazy about that game? I have one in my storage. I saw it the other day.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I got that. I think it was just because it was an old game, and I bought it. I was looking for something for Dr. Saab. Because, see, Dr. Saab wanted something he ordered as a kid. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say it just yet because I sent him the box and it's inside. So I know
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be listening to the show tomorrow. So I don't want to spoil the event. But I spent almost the last 2 weeks dismantling half of my storage, everywhere. Here where I have my office, my other private storage, looking for this item, and I couldn't come across it. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I'm like, I know I have it. I know it's here. I have it. But anyway, the point is that sometimes things like that just disappear from the history books, and then you go like, what did it say? Yeah, but that's the whole thing. That game, if you remember the name of it, Chuck, because you got it. I mean, there was always on television. They used to advertise it like crazy.
Yeah.
If you remember the name of that game or what it looked like or who put it out, let me know, because maybe that's
Yeah,
what.
definitely. Yeah. Hey, I'll do some checking around. Vaguely, it does sound familiar. And I remember Don Adams would walk in with a trench coat on, and he would demonstrate whatever games and so forth. That
Right,
was
right.
Yeah, that goes back to the early 70s at least.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what I'm saying. This was in the
Mm,
70s. So what it was is the kids were playing, and Don Adams came in the door. He said, "What?" And then he would get on, and the moving target would move across the thing, and he'd
yeah.
shoot it. And I don't understand. Even when you look up on YouTube, Don Adams games, all
Hmm.
you have are the Skittle bowling, Skittle
Hmm.
this, Skittle. Now the Skittle shootout, that I thought that was the name of that game.
Are you talking about electronic detective?
Electronic detect. No, 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 no. We're talking about a triangular game that you played, and it was battery operated. Each side of the game had a plastic, like a wedge, let's say like a plastic gun, that the way you shot it, it had a pendulum, a ball hanging from the top, and
Hmm.
you hit the ball to the other ball that caused the ball to shoot. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not explaining it correctly what I'm
And it's
saying,
not
Chuck.
skid. It's not Skittle poker.
No, it's not Skittle poker, but it has the same mechanism like that. It has an actual moving target that's shaped like the Target logo from the store Target. It
Hmm.
looks exactly like that. The only thing is that it's folded in half because it moves across, and then when you hit it with the ball, it's supposed to tip over to the other side. And
Hmm.
and the game, I don't know how to explain it right now, what words to use to explain the design of the game or what it looked like. But I mean, Chuck remembers what I'm talking about because,
Yeah,
like I
vaguely.
said,
Yeah, vaguely I do. It does sound familiar, and I could visualize it what you're saying.
yeah, it's just I don't remember the name of it or anything. But that's something. If anybody listening remembers the name of this game,
Yeah, contact
uh,
Eddie.
I've Googled moving target games, I Google electronic target games from the 70s, pendulum bowling.
I mean, there was a ton of Skittle games out there.
Yeah,
Bingo, pool, baseball.
right.
There's pendulum pool.
Yeah, and you see how the pendulum pool is. You see
Yeah,
how it has the little ball hanging, and you hit it. Well, it's the same thing, same principle, but it has two of them, and it has like an archway on each side. Like the archway, the center of the archway has a chain. You have the ball that swings, and then you lift the ball up, and you hit that balls that are in the plastic gun or whatever you want to say, plastic piece, and the ball shoot across to the other side. But in the process, there's a target that's moving in the center from right to left, like that.
yeah.
And you would hit the target, and then it flip over to the other side. And when they
Wow.
go into the end, that's how it was. I mean, it was a great game, but I just wish I could somehow get a picture of it.
Yeah. Hey, I know one thing. We had the coolest toys growing up as kids. I mean,
Oh
really, we
yeah,
did.
definitely,
Wow.
definitely. You know why we had the coolest toys, Chuck? For two reasons. One, we grew up in an era where the introduction to the video games was happening. That's when Atari was first
Right.
introducing Space Invaders and
Right.
Pac-Man, and you had the first before those you had the ping pong games that were out there.
Hmm.
So we were kind of like like when me and you were very very young, we didn't have calculators, or we didn't. In
No.
fact, to get a calculator was super expensive, and you had two versions. You had the red and green lights,
Right.
and then that grayish numbers. I forgot what those were called.
Hmm.
Where then you wouldn't get a calculator or a calculator watch that had the vivid
Hmm.
LEDs, which was red or green, or I think you had the two choices of red or green. But then they had the gray, which was like a sandy background that was gray, and
Hmm.
it had that we still have today in many watches and stuff, like those cheap watches you buy in Kmart or Walmart,
Sure.
whatever.
Sure.
Um, and I remember that in 1970, in Christmas, they gave me a calculator that was huge. It was
Oh,
like a
they
little
were
miniature.
gigantic. They were gigantic.
Yeah, and it was like I think $30-something for that. That was a
Yeah.
lot of money for a
Oh, yeah.
calculator, and I
Yeah.
thought it was like the greatest toy in the world. In fact, the calculator, Chuck, me and you we were born with were the ones they used to sell in mail order. Remember the one for $1 that were called the adding machines?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you
Right.
stick the little metal pen inside, and
Yeah. Yeah.
or if not, do you remember the ones that were handheld, and you
Yep.
had the four little thing, like say for example, say 4 + 4, and you had
Hmm.
to press the little knobs in the top. It was like a little plastic thing. You remember
Oh,
those?
oh, absolutely. That was neat. Yep. They were cool.
So that's
We
what
had the
that's why.
coolest.
Yeah, the coolest toys were because of that reason, because we were born in an era where it was kind of like when things were just being invented.
Were being invented.
So
Yep. And I
right, so we
remember.
had the basic board game, and then the electronic parts of those board games. So it was phenomenal because there were so many new things coming out
Yep.
that we always had new things every year, and we always look forward for the latest invention.
Yeah, you're
Right
right.
now, there's so much things out there that it's kind of like, let's bring the latest innovation or latest
Mhm.
thing to what's already there.
Oh,
There's always
absolutely.
new things coming out.
Hey, how about the old tin toys? I remember going into Woolworths when I was a kid. They had the coolest tin toys, and those things are very collectible. Pre 1970,
They are, you
they
know
were
the
all metal.
they're all metal. You know what the
Hey
problem?
guys, I'm gonna have to cut it off here. We're down to almost a minute left in the podcast. Time is
Wow.
definitely
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. You ruined the fun. Go ahead.
the time definitely flew by. So next time we'll pick up on tin toys because
Yeah, tin toys. That's great.
there's a lot to get into with tin toys, and I love those vintage tin toys, especially the sci-fi ones. But Chuck, I want to thank you for joining us once again,
Hey, it's
and
always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back, guys. I appreciate it.
yep, good luck with all your shows and your events coming up. And
Thank
I
you.
want to thank everybody out there in podcast land for tuning in to us on your favorite platform. Make sure you subscribe to us, give us a good review. check out houseoftheunusual.com. We have a lot of great stuff there. Eddie just revamped the website recently, so it's very user friendly. We have like we mentioned earlier, the forum there that you could sign up for free and talk with some like-minded individuals, give us some show ideas, and if you want to be a guest, that's the place to let us know. Also, go over to YouTube. Tons of new videos on there. Just search in House of the Unusual. It'll pop right up. Check out our videos, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and leave us some comments in there. And once again, thank you everybody for tuning in to us. Chuck, Eddie, thanks a lot for being here, and good night, everyone.
Okay, good night. Thanks,
Good
guys.
night, guys.